with Kari Stoever, the Vice President of External Affairs with Aeras.
Ultimately, in the fight against any infectious disease, you want a vaccine. You want a vaccine that prevents the transmission of the disease from person to person.
We'll talk to Kari about what tuberculosis is, how it's affecting the world, and what they're doing to try and help. Hi, Kari. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I'd like to start by asking you to give us a brief overview of what tuberculosis is.
Well, tuberculosis is an infectious disease that's spread through the air from person to person. And TB has been with us for as long as probably humanity has been on this planet. There's approximately 1 in 3 people in the world today walking around with TB in their body.
Wow.
Yeah. So Aeras and partners around the world, partners in China, partners in India, partners throughout Europe, pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies, academics, the NIH, it's a huge consortium of partners have been rallying around the development of what we now have as a fairly decent pipeline of new vaccine candidates, with a couple in late stage testing. One, we anticipate results being released in the 2B phase, which is just prior to phase 3 in licensure in early 2013, with a pivotal, meaning a very, very important new vaccine will start to be testing in Africa and India later this year. So the science is coming along. That's the good news. The bad news is that it's an incredibly expensive, challenging disease to treat with the tools we have today. And even with our best efforts, we're going to fall quite short of keeping this disease from spreading.
Well, earlier this year, you received a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to kind of help accelerate some of your research towards a vaccine. What does this mean for your company?
Yeah, well, it's not even just our company. I think, what does it mean for the world? Gates has chosen to use Aeras as the core partner to help facilitate the development of a global pipeline to find the best science in the world, wherever it is, and advance it. The science still needs to be, this ancient bug is still very difficult to understand what activates it. What are the triggers that activate that disease in that individual? And so understanding how to find the right biomarkers or correlates of protection are still underway across the world to help us accelerate and understand better the disease so that we can find better solutions. And so right now, what this Bill and Melinda Gates grant is doing is working on some of those core basic science questions around the vaccine development agenda. It's helping to both facilitate and accelerate the development of the most promising candidates in the global pipeline. It's also pulling in other partners. So, for instance, almost everything we do includes co-funding from, perhaps a pharmaceutical partner, a disease endemic country, the European Commission. So Gates' money is able to leverage a lot of additional money and advance, again, largely advance the global pipeline.
When do you expect that there's going to be a cure for this disease?
Well, cure is a tricky word, and I think I would be ostracized by my fellow public health experts for talking about a cure today for TB. I think that in the perfect world, we would have an incredibly effective vaccine, a new set of highly effective antibiotics that you could take in 7 to 10 days like we do for sinusitis and all the other infectious diseases we deal with here. And you'd be able to rapidly diagnose it. So you weren't chasing people around as they were infecting other people. Again, you've got to break transmission. You have to get people when they're infected and get them treated right away, or prevent infection through vaccination. I think we're looking at, 2020, 2030 when we start to see a slope in the way that the disease is manifest. It's going down at a significant rate compared to what we can achieve today. Without the new tools, TB is going to be with us and killing us for a long time.
Do you start showing signs right away and start being...
No,
so they can literally just walk around and be infecting people around them and not even know it.
Yeah, think about it on public transportation, in schools. If you see the outbreaks often in the U.S., they're in health facilities or in schools. where people have been exposed for some period of time and they don't know it, then you have to test everybody.
You'd mentioned too, like right now you can go on for 2 years of observable treatment. Like there must be huge costs.
The cost in the U.S., and this is not it does vary state by state, but is in the range of $250,000 a patient for MDR. And again, you don't know. If somebody comes in coughing, you could have a cold, you can have allergies, you can have a whole bunch of things. You don't always think about TB. As a matter of fact, most people don't think about TB. And the other thing that's a bit what I feel is the inequity of the disease isn't just on the individual who's infected. You're more likely to infect people you come in close contact with. So imagine the social aspects of this disease. You know, you come home and do you stay in the same room with your family? Do you go in isolation until you're sure you're not infecting? Well, in the U.S., we have the means to do that. Many countries, they don't. So you're infecting your children, and then those children grow up, and at some point they may become active and infect their children. So there's this intergenerational cycle that that happens when you're in an area where there's a high incidence of TB.
Now, what is your company working towards? Like, what drugs or treatments are you currently working on?
Our group only works on vaccines.
Okay.
We're leading. We're really the leaders in the fight for the vaccine. We have, as I said, a lot of partners and collaborators. We don't do anything on our own, but we have some of the best scientists collaborating with the academic institutions globally. We have the ability to manufacture some of the candidates in clinical testing. We help both plan and run large clinical trials. So these clinical trials are very complicated because, again, we don't have a great understanding of what we're looking for by way of protection. So there's a lot of complexity in the science itself, and that scientific expertise and that capacity globally is Aeras, I would say, is probably the in the front leading edge of that science.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. It's been very informative. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thanks.
If you'd like to learn more about the vaccinations that Aeras is producing, go to our website at Kidela.com.